Off top, punctuality is the politeness of kings, according to Louis the XB. Looks like 18th. Play music.
This is the Domonique Foxworth Show.
Welcome to the Domonique Foxworth Show. I know Roman numerals. Do you, Charlie?
Yeah, I think so.
I could give you a test. The Super Bowl, you can always figure out the Super Bowl. You don't have to count it up.
No. There are definitely times when I have to like once there are L's in there, then I'm giving you like the basic ones, the V's and the I's.
Charlie told me a baseball story recently that I don't know why I think you would find it entertaining, but I do know why I think you find it. Is this a story that you can share, Charlie?
Which one?
The baseball injury story that you told me a couple days ago.
Oh yeah, we can share that one. That's hilarious.
We'll get to all the coaching news, and we'll get to I had a good conversation. I did just the Mina show. I had a good conversation, and I think I'll bring some of those topics into this one to see how we can get to the bottom of that. She inexplicably thinks that the catch rule should be altered so that you don't have to survive the ground, but whatever. That's a whole nother fight. See, it's too hard to survive the ground, but that's another conversation. I shouldn't be snitching on it, but we'll see. Anyway, tell your baseball story, please.
Do you want me to tell it now or just save it to the end of the pod? We could do that.
I guess we'll save it to the end of the pod.
I'm
excited.
We'll close the pod with it, but it's very memorable.
I freaking love Charlie, dog.
All right, Bills coach. They fired McDermott. Yeah. He's out of town. All of us in football media have kind of ended up in the same place where we're like, I mean, if anybody should have been fired, it was the guy who constructed the roster, not the guy who was trying to make the decisions around winning in this. But I think ultimately this is one of those situations where they fall in short. Someone has to pay the price. And McDermott is the guy who's going to pay the price because the relationship with owners and general managers is such that it kind of turns out that way. You can sell your case to them, and they buy it, and they move on. You saw Harbaugh made sure that he made it clear that I'll come coach for you, Giants, but I don't work for him. I'm above that guy.
I'll say this, just from the brief stint that I had in the coaching world, teams and general managers think very highly of players that they've brought in. And when you criticize them, and it sounds like some of the reporting has come out that McDermott, like a month or two ago, said something about the roster not being a Super Bowl quality roster. Mm-hmm. And I will tell you, in my experience with that they will take that person. Like you call somebody, hey, this guy ain't good enough, or this guy, and we should coach them better, we should do it. And there's just some guys who walk in and they're high draft because they hit all the numbers, all the boards. They can't ball, bro. They can't play. And players, and I think coaches oftentimes get stuck behind we need to make this work. Yeah. And I think that's the situation he got stuck in, man. And the reality is their roster was not good enough. Yeah. And I kept saying this, and everybody blasted me. But I said this a long time ago. This was not Josh Allen's best chance at winning the Super Bowl because of a down roster on other teams. It was because his team wasn't good enough, in my opinion.
I agreed with you on that point. Until this weekend, honestly. I was with you about this wasn't his best chance to win the Super Bowl until we looked up and saw that the team that they just beat quarterback got hurt. And I guess it's looking at Sam Darnold and Drake May, who hasn't played well yet in the playoffs, which I guess that'll change, hopefully for his sake. That'll change real soon.
Or potentially Stafford.
Stafford.
I mean,
no, you're right. The team is flawed. And that is ultimately the issue with them is not McDermott, but we had a situation where Josh Allen is so good that I think it's hard to be able to tell whose fault it is, because I don't want it to be seen as caping up for McDermott, because he wasn't special. It wasn't, what he did wasn't great. It's just that if there was anybody to criticize, I think
this wasn't the year, in my opinion, right? Like a couple years ago, if you don't, then you go, okay.
It happened so fast too, right? That it seemed like they couldn't wait to do this.
Oh, it was planned. This was not a surprise for them.
It was as soon as he loses,
it was unless we go to the Super Bowl, I agree with that. Yeah.
And to Jeff's point earlier, it was reported that during a meeting 5 weeks ago, both Brandon Beane and Pagula were displeased by McDermott's assessment about not having a Super Bowl roster. Beyond that, McDermott allegedly or publicly was talking about how Jacoby Myers trade was something that can move the needle. We see Jacoby Myers change that Jaguars offense a lot. Rashid Shaheed changed the Seahawks, not really their offense, but just sort of their explosive play rate a lot, whether it's special teams or offense. And what's interesting is the dichotomy with the players, because it's being reported that this firing has been met with skepticism by a lot of the players who held McDermott in high regard. And I have a bunch of questions off this because I do want to talk about the Bills' coaching job, but I have a lean on where you're going to go with this. But if I had told you that the organization was going to clean house because they haven't gotten over the hump with teams that have been really close over the last 5 years, I think you guys have been like, maybe not the best move. This has been a successful organization, but I get it. But if I told you that the Bills were going to choose between Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott, do you think they chose the right guy to keep?
I don't.
Yeah, I definitely don't.
Yeah. I mean, Beane hasn't done since Josh Allen. He's drafted 2 Pro Bowlers. It's not like you're just stacking this team with, just talent after talent. I mean, put that in perspective. The Eagles this year have 4, right? When you talk about just putting guys in positions, now that's not saying that their roster has no value. I'm not trying to minimize there are good players on the Bills team, but when you as a general manager, right? When the ability to bring in a Waddle midway through the season to help you when your receivers are struggling and that your defense hasn't progressed to the point where you want them to, which is kind of opposite of what they had done in the years past. They kind of started so, but they kind of tightened up as it went. You're going to have to be more offensive minded. And you just didn't follow the process of, and I think that's one reason, I know people love and hate Howie Roseman at different things, but what I is he's willing to go out and do things and try things. And who was the receiver? Dotson.
Oh yeah.
He's been okay, right? But he was willing to go do whatever he felt like the team might need at the time. And I think too many GMs are scared to splash, and I felt like that's where Beane fell to me.
Yeah, and I think that the thing is, it's hard to say that either one of them was special. But I can point to some things and the way that they've schemed around defensive insufficiencies
for sure
to have success. It's hard for me to point to the really impressive draft picks that they made or decisions that they made. I think we could do that for all the teams that are kind of successful. You can point to decisions that they made that were not obvious ones and were a bit risk-taking that worked out for him. The only thing that you could point to for him is saying that was a bit of a risk take, or a bit of them taking a risk. It didn't really work out. It's this idea that they can survive without a top-level receiver.
That's right.
Which, of course, they can survive without a top-level receiver, but you see that problem jumps up more and more. And as the league changes, different positions become more or less valuable or more and less important. And it sure feels like that number one receiver is an important position, particularly when you have a team that runs the ball as well as they do, and you have a quarterback like Josh Allen. It'd be nice to have some help. That's how he broke out. The challenging thing is, I think he probably takes a ton of credit, and deservedly so, gets credit for acquiring Josh Allen. That was not the obvious decision there. It was kind of made for him. He was the quarterback in that draft. But you also, he wasn't an immediate walk-in-the-door awesome guy. He developed,
right.
Which then you look at the coaches. So I don't know if it doesn't seem like, to Jeff's point, this was something that happened relatively quick, which wasn't a surprise for them. So they must have some sort of plan or some sort of idea in mind. I think the next move will really help us understand what their plan was. But it's still, if you had to pick a side, that wouldn't be the side that I chose.
And let me just add to that point is, and Nick and I have talked about this on this show and on all of our other shows. We could argue between turnover ratio and explosive plays in the NFL. Nick and I both side on explosive plays are the most important part, especially for offenses, right? Limiting them on defenses, but on offense, it is tough to go 14-play drives repeatedly, bro. And as good as you run the ball without those Saquon type, you know, and James Cook had a fantastic year, all Pro Bowl, all of that. He deserves all the credit. But there is something about being able to take that ball and dump it outside and a 5-yard go 50. They just didn't have a lot of that. That's a grind, man.
Which leads to Josh Allen having a career high in sacks, which is like your most valuable asset is putting himself at risk in part because he doesn't have the help that he needs. That Keon Coleman draft pick really didn't work out, and I think that was really hurt this team.
And you have to be realistic about the window here, even with the fact that Josh Allen's improved so much as an accurate passer and he's an incredible 3-level thrower, and you just don't know how long the athleticism will last this way. And it's not to say that he's not going to age gracefully as a quarterback, but the window of him being one of the best players in the world, if he's on the wrong side of 30, you don't know if this is 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, or it can be over quick. But yeah, I mean, I guess the first thing I'd ask about this is moving forward, or the second piece of this, not the first part, is do you think this is something that they hire in-house with Joe Brady since they thought they had this done now, or they have a plan and there is a big fish looming? Because it feels crazy to fire McDermott or have the plan to fire McDermott if we think it was executed this quickly without some idea of like what's next and how to move forward.
I mean, there's only a couple different ways to go, and I think it's hard to determine what the right way to go is because they've been so like competitive and good. I think they'll be reluctant to. So that's the weird question is I imagine they don't want to change much on the offense because they've been good on offense. But I don't know that Joe Brady is going to stay around if he's not the head coach.
Right.
If he has other options, he may not have other options.
If McDermott goes somewhere else, he may want to go with him.
Yeah, McDermott, there's a lot there. What are still, how many openings are still left? There's still 6 openings left. Like, it's a lot of good jobs that Joe Brady could go for if he doesn't become the head coach here. But you normally don't go back if you went from a defensive head coach to another defensive head coach. Right. McDermott was.
You swing it.
Yeah, they normally go to the offensive side, but the offense, you would say, isn't the problem short of having receivers. So the way that I would probably go, and then there's the CEO type, oversee everything. That tends to be the one that is more attractive to me because it gives you more flexibility.
Me too.
But you just had a guy who was a defensive guy, and it didn't seem like his game management, like the decision-making for him in game wasn't the problem to me. It just, and given that the players are reacting the way that they're reacting, it's not like there's some locker room issue, even despite that article from last year that talked about him giving bad pregame speeches.
That made me think that Beane leaked that the way this came out, like, which is like reckless speculation by me. Right. But that's just the way it reads now. The way it reads now, it seems that way.
Yeah. But I mean, I say all that to say it's hard to be sure about exactly what they need. You asked me the question. I don't think I gave you a sufficient answer. But I mean, it's the right head coach.
It was just head coach. Joe Brady. I'm saying Joe Brady or going outside was the real question.
I would go outside. I would go outside. If all things were equal, I don't know who this guy is. I want somebody, because their issue is getting over the hump. I want somebody who walks in with the credibility of being able to get over the hump. Those guys are hard to find. I don't know
that's my biggest thing is like, who are you going to that's one, like, you look at his record, what I mean, I think he was like 88-33 or something over the last whatever years. They've won, 8 playoff games. They've been to the AFC Championship game. Like, unless you come in and win the Super Bowl, like, okay, so they go the division round next year and they lose, and Kansas City gets better again, and Kansas City knocks them out. This coach deserves to be fired? Like, what are our expectations for the Bills? Like, I get it, and I understand that. To me, this is a different situation than like Tomlin in Pittsburgh and even Harbaugh in Baltimore. This one's weird to me because it's like, this is literally about one more game. It's not even about, because he's gotten to the championship game. He's gotten to the divisional round, right? I think they've won a playoff game, right? 7 years in a row?
6 in a row, 6 years
in a row. Okay, 6 in a row. So he's winning playoff games each year, which means you really are in it, right? Like, you really are in this thing, and you get to it, and
Just I mean, I guess they just think that it's gotten stale, right?
And that could be true.
Because I don't know, you can't point to something specific unless I'm missing something, Charlie. Is there something specific that we can say they should be better at? I guess maybe the defense overall should be better, but the defense, to me, some of the issues is missing on draft picks and dealing with injuries, and they've done well, I thought, in making the defense passable despite those issues.
The defense has overachieved despite the injuries, for sure. And I don't know. This is the question of Brandon Beane, who was not just retained but promoted, and having faith in him and fixing the issues and not botching it, which in what could be like the last impactful coaching search for a Hall of Fame quarterback, right? At the peak of his powers, and the defense doesn't have depth. They've never figured out the pass rush stuff. I mean, I guess. Right. Rousseau's been a nice player who they drafted, but they've missed on a lot of defensive linemen. The best defensive players they've gotten are like Teron Johnson and Benford in the draft, who are not first-round picks. They've hit on some mid-round picks, but you're now expecting Brandon Beane to find a Batman receiver, find a Batman pass rusher, which are two of the hardest things to find in the NFL, while accumulating enough depth with Josh Allen's really big contract that you can fix the situation quickly. And it seems like a really tough task, and you have a massive advantage because you have one of the best players in the world playing quarterback for you, but it feels like far from a sure thing that the roster under Beane is going to get better really quickly for whoever's coaching.
I think I feel like my answer to every question when you ask who's the coach should be is Brian Flores. But
I love it.
Well, it's not even who, but even stylistically, if you want a Flores or an offensive guru, that type of thing.
I don't know. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I think the stylistic question is hard for me to answer because I'm not exactly sure what they're trying to address.
Right.
Yeah. And
well, you can make things. So here's a point for you on this. You talked a lot about this year about the mental load that's on Mahomes, where he has to answer every single question for his offense over and over and over again, and he made 3 consecutive Super Bowls. He won 2 of them since the Tyreek trade, with Travis Kelce aging, with the offensive line being up and down from year to year, and a really good defense. But we saw over time what that did to Mahomes. He doesn't play his best football in that time. And if you're going to go offensive, if you're going to go stylistic, it would be pairing an offensive guru that can make things potentially easier for Josh Allen. I think that's probably the same question that the Ravens are asking with their job of like, how do we is the path forward minimizing our deficiencies or maximizing this unique strength that we have, which is a Hall of Famer at the peak of his powers? And Jeff, like I don't know how much of this was just really stable with you with Peyton because you had Tom Moore for such a long time, but I wonder if institutionally, that was something that was thought about by Polian when it went to Dungy, or what they thought of the offense, or how they wanted to like sort of build around the strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah, we did not. Yeah, they kept Tom. I mean, Tom was there with Mora. There was no chance that was going to be switched. I think that Bill did a good job of having structure in place where certain pieces and parts could be lost, but the main contributor stayed the main, whether that was Howard Mudd or John Tierlink, which were the offensive line, defensive line coaches. But Tony was also extremely stable once he came in. But let me say this, because one point that you brought up that I really liked, and I'll say this, and I said this earlier today on a Sports Center. One of the greatest things you can do for a great quarterback and a Hall of Fame quarterback is get him a great defense. Mm-hmm. I think we missed the point that our game is complementary for a reason. And I don't say those words like a hashtag that guys use it when they're talking. I can assure you that the freedom you feel from an offensive side when you know that group's going to walk out and have to punt you the ball back, you play with a level of freedom. And I think we forget that. We act like, let's go score 30 points a week and it's all good. It is very difficult to do that. And I think a lot of people miss how important building around. And you think about this, the greatest to ever do it being Tom Brady, right? From a Super Bowl perspective and what he was capable of. I can tell you because I faced those defenses.
Yeah.
They were freaking brutal.
And that was
dude.
the difference.
They were brutal, dude.
that
It
was
was
the
a
difference.
nightmare, man. It was a freaking. It is a lunch pail.
I mean, I can speak to like playing against Brady and Manning, and Manning was harder to play against, like offense to defense.
Yes.
That offense was much more difficult to face, but that the Patriots had more success because I think they were a defensive-centric team with a defensive-minded head coach and Brady.
Special teams.
They made those other plays, and it does seem like to the load question is like they're asking more and more of Josh Allen, and that's why I think I would lean more defensive-minded.
Agreed.
I like the idea, Charlie, and concept of like, let's get the best out of this great quarterback. But and the tough thing is you guys went with Tony Dungy and it still didn't change that it was still an offensive-centric team. So like,
Correct.
It doesn't mean just because you hire a defensive-minded coach
that
you'll all of a sudden your defense will be good. But you saw like this year, like it's a great like representation of how important defense is and how important defense has become because the teams that are playing well and you see Drake May has made it to where he's made it not because he's been balling but because that defense is good. Even
he's been balling. He struggled
these last
week.
2 games.
Last 2 games he hadn't balled.
Even the Bears, whose defense we've like given a hard time, like they played well against the
turnovers,
Rams.
bro. Insanely well.
Yeah, totally. I don't know. I think it's just really interesting because you also think about some of the teams that have had the most success, and it's offensive coach quarterback combos. No, there are ones. I'm just like historically.
Well, I mean, if we're talking,
the greatest to ever do it was defense,
of course.
I mean, even if you bring up Mahomes, it's like this. The last several years of Mahomes has been defense,
absolutely,
and them. So I guess it's. Obviously, there are a bunch of different ways to get it done.
That's what I mean. It's just that it's a choose your own adventure, like Bill Walsh, Joe Montana, Andy Reid.
Right, but that, I mean, you can't go back to those days. That's pre-free agency.
Sure.
And the reason why they beat everybody's is because they had all the good players and they wouldn't let nobody leave. Like that defense was absurd too.
No, but 100%.
Even the McVay and Stafford. Yeah. Like I was there when McVay lost to the Patriots in Atlanta, and then and you watch the one they win. They win that because their defense makes plays at the end, right? Like Burrow's got the ball, dude. I mean, they got a shot at this thing, and a freak of an athlete on defense makes 2 plays, and it changes.
Charlie getting ganged up on him like it.
You getting dominated.
I don't. But I'm not even against your side. I just don't know.
Don't try to act like it's not a competition. It was a competition. You lost.
Because you were trying to throw Andy Reid and Mahomes, minimizing Spags didn't do a job over there.
They didn't hit on them draft picks.
I'm being gaslit aggressively. I will say I do think that one of the interesting things about the McVay thing in retrospect is this is Domonique, you'll like this. Organizational alignment from top to bottom, which is the way that McVay and Les Snead worked together. I mean, McVay was a huge part of recruiting Stafford in the first place. They aligned the timeline of the end of Aaron Donald's career with acquiring Stafford, knowing what you had with the offense at that point, and then building it together. That part.
And Lynch is also an organizational.
Good job.
I mean, I think that's the thing too that we should point out is maybe Beane will be much better with someone else that he's aligned with because it is like the type of players that you want. You have to, in order to coach them, you have to get the type of players that you want. I'm not sure how it worked, but the coaches have to believe in the players understand the system. Like you can see it with McDonald when he got to Baltimore and then when he got out to Seattle. It's like I got to get these guys, and that can play the way that I want to play or the way that I know how to coach. And I think that's the thing with what Beane does is I think it's so D-line focused. Is what they really want to do is let their front get after you and play zone behind.
Right.
They can't do that because they haven't been able to put together a healthy and dominant front.
Yeah. Can I say this too? Just a little splash in there, and all my Indiana friends are going to freaking hate me for this. Like, how is Cignetti not getting every interview known to man? Talk about alignment.
Thank you.
Understanding what you need and what works in your system, and having 2 or 3 dudes who have worked with him for dang near a decade, and all they go do is win together. Like, I don't understand. I don't care if I had a coach. I'm calling that dude, bro. I'm bringing him in my office. I'm trying to figure. You watch how he wins. He has a system in place. And now, is he going to win every game? That's not what I'm saying. But, man, the man knows exactly what pieces and parts he wants on offense, on defense, and on special teams.
Well,
I don't understand.
So that I was thinking about that because I brought that up to Domonique this morning about potentially Buffalo, but the one that's, I mean, Baltimore, Buffalo, it doesn't matter. Like, you're talking, these are like two insane jobs. You have two Hall of Fame quarterbacks near the peak of their powers that have been stable organizations looking for head coach, and this guy, you know, he turned JMU into a college football power, and then Indiana, and I think like it's because of the changes to the college football landscape, it's almost been minimized that the concept of Indiana toppling Michigan and Ohio State in the Big Ten and winning a national championship, and like that if I told you that 5 years ago, it seemed impossible.
Bro, thumped Alabama, blitzed the daylights out of them, dude. Came in and just freaking thumped Oregon, and then plays a great game against Miami. I mean, the score was close in the end, but like from a physicality standpoint, like IU was the most physical team. I mean, they and so does that win every time? No, but it gave them a freaking shot, and they closed it out, man. I don't know. I'm telling you right now, he'd be on I'm calling that dude up, begging him.
He also, he has kind of like, I mean, I don't know if this is something that we would get sick of if we got more media used to it, but he comes off as so, like, it's so funny when he's like the point at McAfee or the Google me stuff, or like it's Belichickian in a sense, like in a way, like college football, I'm about ball. I'm so serious about this. The video of him walking out to check the field to make, like, before the game.
I think we've done this topic a little bit before. It's like, I think that does get old and get a little annoying, but what matters is authenticity.
Yeah.
And that's what it's like.
He seems very authentic.
Yeah. If that's who you are, and you also, like, we know what we're going to get. If you're authentically that guy, then it works. And I think people will.
That's right.
And then it's the tough thing about evaluating college coaches is college is so simple scheme-wise.
Right.
Yeah.
And, like, I assume that he'll get the right staff that can figure out. But, like, nothing that I saw in that game last night. It's a championship game.
On
and
either
it was
side.
Like, yeah, on either side.
Oh, yeah.
It was just like, we gonna run like verts. We gonna run three verts and do back shoulders is our offensive. Like, it was just.
It was funny because the first meeting we had this morning, we're in with Jordan Rodgers, and we're talking about
Anchor
the last.
Oh, he's anchored down. He's a Vandy guy.
He was my year at Vandy. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
He took all the girls from you, didn't he?
I don't think we were swimming in this. I think he was in the big leagues. I was not. Let's be very clear about this.
Oh, don't be so hard on yourself. It's not fun making fun of you.
You can't be self-effacing if we're going to mock you.
Hold on. The dude won The Bachelor. The second he walked out of the limo, you saw him win it, and then they said they had to make 20 episodes of it. I think that's fair. I think that's fair for all of us.
My man Charlie can compete.
Yeah.
You can swim in them waters, man.
You gotta find this on YouTube. He walks past, and Joe, I guess his now wife, goes, "Look at that butt." And then we all knew as the viewers it was over.
So wait a minute. So okay. So I knew he was on, but I didn't know if he was like the guy that. So he was one of the girl was picking guys.
Yeah.
And when he got out, everybody knew he was going to win.
It was, and they still had 20 episodes, but you knew within 10 seconds. It was like game set match.
He was a man amongst boys. Amongst boys. We knew where he was going, and now they've been married. They just had a kid.
Had a daughter.
Congrats for him.
Oh no, it's awesome.
All right, so let's go.
Anchor down.
All right. Anchor down up. I'm right with you. All right, so he's talking about the final play or the interception by Miami. And he's like, literally, that is day one QB. Like, trips into the boundary, one-on-one on the left-hand side. Or I'm sorry, he's going to get bracket on the one side. He's going to have, so he's got safety over the top. And the corner has nobody threatening his flat, so he doesn't. And so he just bails on it. And he's like, you know, he made mention. He's like, I threw a pick like that one time. But you talk about in every play we go through, like, this is such a simple like concept. So to your point, and Mendoza talking about like the his touchdown that's going to be iconic in Indiana for history, right? And it's like he's in the huddle and he's here, and if it's zone, we're going to do this. If it's man, we're doing this. Well, it's a zone on one half of the field and man on the other. So he's like, I'm going to pull it and run, right? I'm going to tuck it down. And it has an incredible. And can players do that? For sure. Yeah. But the reality is on the defensive side, them dudes are going to tatch you up. Like you know, being able to process through those things and figure that out from a defensive perspective. And those guys, very, very rarely in the NFL do you break 6 tackles on the way to the end zone. Although, I mean, it's incredible, but that's, as a quarterback.
Yeah, I was thinking about this. I had this conversation with Mina earlier. This is kind of off topic, but it was, I came to a pretty interesting point about Caleb and going forward with how good Caleb Williams can be is when you talk about Caleb Williams being like a boom and bust quarterback who plays really poorly and then really well in the same game. The thing about him that makes it so interesting how good they can be is that the plays that are bad, oftentimes when you have like Josh Allen, he was a quarterback who would do amazing things early in his career, but when he was trying to do those amazing things, he would always do terrible things. So it's like you have to give 2 interceptions for every 3 touchdowns that he throws. The thing about Caleb that's interesting is his amazing plays don't come with turnovers. His turnovers are from like playing in structure. So like there is a world where he can clean that up and still have those incredible explosive plays, which is so rare that he's not a problem when he's creating. He's able, all the stuff that people say you're not going to be able to do in the NFL, he's doing it in the NFL. The problem is, can you like consistently not overthrow people? But,
and that's like that there's, with the Caleb thing, it's totally unique too because he's progressing so fast. Like the percentage of amazing plays to misses, that ratio is very different at the start of the season compared to the end with how much he improved and how much better he got. But you're talking about someone who idolized Aaron Rodgers. He was saying it was not like he was not an acolyte of Tom Brady, of anyone else. It was he wanted to play exactly like Rodgers, who was the guy who minimized turnovers. And I'm sure that there's some PFF statistic that with some of his off-target throws, like his turnover rate was like maybe artificially depressed. But I think we all know after the end of the season, the postseason, that where he's getting and where he's going to be is like an elite playmaker who doesn't turn the ball over.
And part of that, the part of his efficiency, all this comes down to sacks.
Yeah. Like he's impossible to bring down.
Yeah, man. Like,
that ties into the coaches' conversation a little bit because Ben Johnson turned out to be a different type of head coach than I think we all thought he was, and maybe this personality came through in the interviews, which is why sometimes it's hard to project because,
it's a good point.
That if you're asking me what kind of head coach they need, that's what they need. They need someone with that sort of personality, and
he's scheme and personality.
Right.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean,
and identity, like all that
I'll
stuff.
I'll say this though, I did not. Oftentimes you don't know from a coordinator perspective. I will say this from my perspective. Most coordinators are pass game driven coordinators, right? And the O-line coaches are doing run game coordination. They're putting all kinds of stuff. I was shocked at how well he put together run games that looked very, very similar to Detroit and how far Detroit fell off in that realm after he left. Like, it shows you he had a ton to do with dialing up and runs, man.
And they have a ton of talent, and part of that we should give a ton of there's credit to Ryan Poles for that, how he built it before he got there. But I don't know if you remember, there was that report that maybe Poles initially didn't want to hire Ben Johnson because he'd be giving up some of his control, and then they worked it out. This is in the news cycle last year, but some of that too is Ben Johnson building the offensive line in his image with the way that they brought in Tooney and the interior offensive line to let them develop that running game this year. Yeah. So like that part's again organizational alignment where they built the roster and the coach and the quarterback together.
Yeah, and the GM and
that's
right. They got some young pass catchers there, and they seem to be hitting on the draft. They're another team that's
tight
like
ends.
Burden. Doesn't it feel like Burden and Loveland both could end up being all pros?
Yeah,
Loveland might be next year. Like he distinctly could be.
They're both young, combined with a quarterback on a rookie deal. They have money to spend to get their D-line right. Like that team seems like a team that is aligned right now, and I think it all goes back to like finding a coach as good as. And I made this argument before that people thought that Ryan Poles should have been fired when they moved on from who they have last time.
Eberflus?
Yeah, Eberflus. Yeah. And like my argument was like Poles had done a good job. I feel the same thing about the guy in Cleveland.
Andrew Berry.
Andrew Berry. Like I feel like the roster is not the problem. So it's easy. I think you can disentangle roster decisions from coaching, but it's harder to do that with like on the field stuff. But I think the coaching decision here is a hard one for us to advise because I think it's going to be about like how they feel in the room.
For Buffalo?
Yeah, for Buffalo. That's what we're still on, right? Like, it's how they feel in the room, not how well they've coordinated a scheme.
Yeah. There's more Mendoza stuff. And I think it's interesting. I mean, who knows how they feel in the room? There might be someone who blows them away. It's like, I can get the most out of you, Josh, out of this offense and maximize the pieces. Of course, they're not going to end up with, by next year, they're not going to end up with DJ Moore, Roma Dunze, Luther Burden, and all those guys in Loveland. They've hit on a lot of stuff there. But I do want to ask you on the Mendoza thing. Okay, we're assuming that's going to go to Vegas. He's going to go to Vegas. That hasn't been the most stable organization. We've heard that Brady wants to potentially bring in those guys, Dable and Flores. We've heard different coaching rumors. But what they have is Brock Bowers. They've spent a high pick on Genti, passing up offensive linemen. They have to fix their offensive line immediately for him to succeed. But they have $100 million in cap space to do so. If you're the Raiders, is Cignetti the guy that you go after? Pair him with Mendoza. You know that's an alignment from college to the pros that could potentially work, and then dedicate as much money and draft capital as possible to making it work around those guys with offensive line and stuff like that.
I mean, it's hard not to say yes, given what how you guys just drooled all over how great Curt Cignetti is. But I don't know. I just have a.
I would.
Yeah.
I would. I mean, or at least I'd have him in a building, talking with him and seeing. Like he. The bottom line is he's taken a program that had literally never. They were the losingest program in history, and he made them a national champion in 2 years. He lost 2 games, and they were both last year. I mean, the dude just ran the table in college football, man, and he has literally 0 5-stars. So think about, like, that means every undrafted guy he can figure out a way. What can he do well? What he can evaluate talent of what they can and can't do. Capability and what your expectation, it matters. I would definitely go after him.
I mean, it's hard to find someone else that you could make a better argument for. I mean, I think the scheme stuff would be concerning. There is nobody who jumps out as like the super offensive mastermind that's going to help your quarterback. I think if you do draft a quarterback, Fernando Mendoza, especially this team is so far away from being
so
good
far
enough for a quarterback. You have to use all your cap space to support him, because I think we all know this. If you've listened to this show or watched this show at all, you know how much we believe that the situation matters a great deal for the quarterback. So that would be my only fear. And like, around March, we're gonna do this conversation where we say, should Fernando Mendoza refuse to go to the Raiders? Like, we're gonna.
You're gonna do that conversation.
Oh yeah. Well, fine. I'm gonna.
Every year you want the first overall pick quarterback to demand a trade.
And every year I'm right. They should. I know. Every year I'm right that they should. Fernando Mendoza certainly doesn't seem like he has the temperament to do that. Like, he seems like a total line sort of guy. But I mean, your career could be ruined.
He's very Andrew Lucky.
Yeah,
he's got like, I mean, personality wise. I don't mean like play wise, but like personality wise. Yeah, he has that, like, he's smarter than Charlie, but doesn't know he's the smartest guy, and like thinks everybody else thinks like him, and you're like, wait, what?
Poor guy.
Yeah,
it feels like if he couldn't play football, somebody would be taking advantage of him somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh man, but he's an awesome football player. But I do worry about any quarterback going into that place, not just the Raiders, just a bad situation.
Right.
Are you intimating that even if Mendoza was someone who should demand a trade there, but from the other way, are you saying that they shouldn't pick him because they should try and build up the situation? Because that seems really, you don't get that many bites at the apple to get a first overall pick quarterback.
I think that's what it comes down to, is like, you're not going to get that many chances. You can't believe that the next guy is going to be there. You just have to be careful about it. And if there was a trade available that like blew you away, I'd be all for like getting a bunch of first round picks to build up your roster and then go get a quarterback, or try to go get a quarterback. But then the situation is, you may be later in the draft, you may not be able to find a quarterback. It's just hard. You got the 1-1 right now with the guy who has the traits, seems to have the mental makeup, is tough, and is gonna work hard and be the type of representative that you need for the Raiders in Vegas.
I think he's gonna be good, high floor player.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Maybe not. I don't know.
I'm not saying that he's not going to be good. I'm just saying that the situation sucks.
Yeah.
And, like, if you don't have an O-line, your best receiver is a tight end, you have a running back who couldn't get going because of the O-line, the defense is depleted. Like, for a rookie to come into that situation, you're asking a lot of them. And that time goes fast, and those scars do last. So that would be my concern. It's not that he can't do it. Like, I'm sure if you dropped him in the right situation, he'd be fine. But that situation don't feel right.
It's just like we see that change from time to time. I know it's like those players are outliers, but like Drake May was in a really tough situation his rookie year. In year 2, he could be potentially heading to the Super Bowl. Like Jaden Daniels went to a team that just was a dumpster fire. They turned it around year 1. Obviously year 2 it regressed, but like Burrow did similar stuff where it turned around really quickly. Like I'm not saying he's on par with those guys as prospects, but you know, the NFL seems it's not like basketball where it's like a 7-year build when you get a first overall pick. It feels like it can turn quickly with cap space in the NFL.
You also, I mean, the other part about the trading out the pick is, do you hit on those picks?
Yeah.
Like the risk is if you hit on an above average, not like, you know, let's take him out of being a top 5 quarterback or whatever, right? But just if he's a top 15 guy or a top 10 guy, you've done pretty well, right?
Yeah.
Like
for sure.
You've done pretty well. And so even if you get three picks or whatever it is, do you hit on all of those, which the Raiders have historically, recently especially, have not done.
I mean, you're going to have to answer the quarterback question at some point.
Exactly.
So no matter how, if you do get all those picks and hit them all, you're going to have to answer the question at some point. So, like, you might as well take a shot right now.
But you get Dayball, I think Mendoza, like, even if he's just your offensive coordinator, Flores is the head coach, and Dayball comes over as the OC. Even Mike McDaniel, like. I would trust, like, as an OC, right? Because you're much more about scheme, how to protect a guy, what does he got to do, how to limit unnecessary shots, unnecessary risk. Like, those guys have shown you that they could figure that part out. That's where I would kind of lean as far as those things go. Or if Joe Brady comes available, you know, somebody like that.
So what do you think the best job is in this hiring cycle? Because there's Pittsburgh, Buffalo, Ravens.
So if you want to win a Super Bowl soon, it's Buffalo or the Ravens. I think if you are looking for like some more time to build a team in your own image, then I think it's just about anywhere else where Tennessee's already off the market, because I would have liked to go there with a young Cam Ward where you feel like you have the quarterback.
And a good defense.
Yeah, and you have the quarterback, you have some pieces on defense, but you also have some runway in a bad division. I think the question comes down to, do you want to work for the Ravens or do you want to work for the Bills? And I think going in there and working under Beane is less attractive to me. I think you'd probably lean, you're splitting hairs between these quarterbacks, but if you lean one way or the other, you probably lean Josh coming off of this season that he just had.
Right.
But if you have a front office that you know will consistently keep your roster stacked, like, I think it's Baltimore with,
I had this question on First Take today, and it was an interesting question for me because I picked Baltimore, but one of the arguments was DaCosta versus Beane. Yeah. And if you look at DaCosta's track record, right, like before the season, we would have said this was a top 5 roster being in Baltimore. Now, can you get, from reports, can you get Lamar to be, to do whatever his part is? Can you get the guys who were in the building to play better? Like, those are all, questions about. But I like Buffalo. I like Buffalo because of their offensive line, and I think Baltimore's offensive line is okay. Yeah. They write home about a lot of guys who I think are just kind of okay. Mm-hmm. But they don't play great as a group, in my opinion. And so I like James Cook. I like the tight ends they have in Buffalo. I think you go get them a receiver or two. I think that offense is vicious and very consistent because of the run game. I was disappointed in the run game for Baltimore this year. Part of that's because Lamar couldn't run, I know, so maybe if he gets healthy, maybe that changes. But the DaCosta comment to me earlier today was one, and you just made the same, which is it's a solid point.
Mm-hmm. It is. I mean, the Ravens have the organizational stability, but like I actually don't feel like the roster for the Ravens was that great this year. Like, when you really look around, obviously they have Derrick Henry and they have Kyle Hamilton, who's like.
I think we're not making the comment about the roster specifically, but I think you compare it to the Bills roster, I think it's definitely better. Mm-hmm. The offensive line, I think Jeff and I both like really appreciate how important that is. So that differential is hugely valuable
for the Bills.
Yeah, for the Bills, right?
Yeah.
But I think those guards in Baltimore were tough this year.
Yeah. I think generally, though, like you look at the rest of the roster and you feel pretty good about the pieces that you have. Short. I mean, neither team has the pass rush that they want. You have better weapons in Baltimore, I think. Yeah, I don't know.
Listen, here's the other thing, too, is like when you think, like everybody thinks about positions differently, and I think about these things like the same way we talk about like the ceiling and floor for quarterbacks, I see offense and defensive line play the same way. So I don't mind a guy being an average guard, right? Mm-hmm. Like being an average. I can't tolerate like Nolan Ryan's, which is just a whiff, right? Like it blows by you, and all of a sudden, your quarterback's running for his life, right? You get on the edge, the guy's pushing you, you're a little leaky in the pocket. Okay, we can work around. Like, not everybody's going to be a freaking all-pro that's just locking dudes up, but like there's got to be. You have to know what your floor and what your ceiling is. I would say the ceiling and the floor in Buffalo is significantly better than Baltimore.
And I might have misspoke I meant Baltimore's guards. The Voorhees and Falele, who had they kept showing up with the tape of like the really
It was tough when fans are making guard tapes this bad because they don't know what they're looking at.
Spinning circles, looking around. And everybody's like, "What's he doing Saturday?" I just didn't even answer. I was like, I don't know what he's doing. I don't know what their offense is calling for. Always go to that. Yeah, I wasn't in the meeting. I don't know what they call. I don't know what they call in the huddle. Well, is there a circle block? I don't know. Maybe
they definitely didn't call the spin around. They never called the spin move.
Maybe. I know he put $20 in the fine jar for conduct unbecoming an offensive lineman. I know that on that play.
To get fined for the most ridiculous. All right, Charlie, close us out, man.
Oh, okay. So I think the statutes of limitations have passed on this. This was like 15 years ago. So I was playing my senior year of high school. I was playing high school baseball, and our team was good, and we had a couple of like top recruits. But we, before the season, scheduled some better teams. One of which was going down to Charlottesville to play against Kyle Long, who obviously played in the NFL, but he went to Florida State for baseball. He's like a 6'8" lefty.
Really?
He threw like 100 miles an hour. He was like a potential first rounder out of high school. Ended up going to Florida State. So we drive down there to play them. We have our best pitcher who's like, he ended up playing the big leagues, but he's a Virginia commit, and he's going to pitch against Kyle Long. And there are major league scouts from every single team behind the backstop, and we're doing infield outfield before the game. And outfielders get the ball in. The last throw for the second baseman is sort of a charging ground ball. He throws it to first baseman throws it to second for a turn two. Our second baseman might have gotten a little starry-eyed looking at some major league scouts, and he was sort of the boy of our team too, like the guy who was like thought of himself as like the pretty boy type thing. So he throws the ball to first base, and he's kind of preening in front of these scouts and doesn't run off the field. Our first baseman, was also he was our number 2 pitcher, fires the ball to second, and he's got a cannon. The second baseman is sort of standing in the base path and just takes a 90-mile-an-hour fastball directly to the testicles. So he has a cup on, but he drops like a rock, and we're all laughing so hard. And he doesn't get up. He's just down. And so eventually the trainers from St. Anne's Belfield, Kyle Long's school, comes out and is like, what's going on here? And I guess the testicle went back in. And Jeff, do you
inserted?
And do you know, this is he's a big guy. This guy, the second baseman, ends up being a college baseball player. And do you know how they get that? Do you know how they get that out of you?
No.
You sit on the ground with your legs out. They grab you under the armpits and they just drop you and bounce you. And so
That's where the term drop 'em comes from. Okay.
Yeah. And so this guy had to sit there and get bounced while both teams were just laughing hysterically, watching him get bounced off the ground.
Oh.
And we were in Charlottesville. We're 2.5 hours away from DC. So his parents aren't there. No one's there. Like, it's a Saturday morning. He had to lie in the dugout with a gigantic ice pack on his while we played the game for the next 3 hours, and then drive in the back of a school bus for 2.5 hours home.
Legs up. He's hurt. He's hurt, dog. We recovered? Kids? Everything all right?
Yeah, I think everything's working down there. He's got a kid.
Praise God, dude.
Thank you, Charlie.
Charlie, that was solid. Hey, by the way, Kyle Long, the guard, the Bears guard?
Yeah, he ended up, I think because we had like a 15-minute delay, he didn't even end up pitching against us. He played first base. But yeah, he was like one of the 5 or 10 best high school prospects in the country as a pitcher in high school, not as a football player.
First of all, I didn't even know he went to Florida State. I had no idea. But
yeah.
I thought he was a Virginia guy. His brother went to Virginia, right?
Yeah. And then he went to Florida State for baseball and then transferred to Oregon for football. But he was a baseball guy
So
first.
he wasn't playing baseball? I mean, playing football at Florida State?
No, baseball.
I mean, I know you're close with the Long, so that's why I'm
that's your
asking.
boy.
No, this was like we were the same year, and it was like
family.
someone throwing 100 miles an hour. We were just like, holy, this guy's gigantic.
What
He throws
happened
so
to baseball? Why would he not pursue baseball?
I don't know.
I mean, was he like? I mean, would he throw the ball over everybody's head?
No. He was an
control?
Aflac All-American. Like, I think he had like big league talent. Like, I have no idea what happened at Florida State, why he didn't end up sticking with baseball.
God knew better than to give me that talent.
Yeah.
God knew better to give me baseball talent.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
I'd be out there.
I think if you're 6'8", throwing 100 from the left side, he might have gotten a first round grade without finding the zone ever.
He's like Wild Thing, dog. He's like Wild Thing. I mean, what a
first round pick in football. That's
yeah, he could have been a first rounder in both. Yeah.
I didn't realize he was that high pick.
And by the way,
he got hurt in the league, right?
Like I think he hurt his back and then his knee. But he was, I mean, obviously had a few All-Pro years. But no, he. I think he didn't pitch against us, so I don't know. But from what I remember,
you're lucky.
Of course,
you are lucky he didn't pitch to you.
I mean, yeah, I think we ended up winning that game like 24-0 in 3 innings.
Charlie had a bunch of good players on his team. He wasn't one of them.
No, I was not one of them. No, we had a couple big leaguers on a small high school team. That was like makes a big difference.
What position did you play?
Left field, which is the
Worst.
worst. Yeah, exactly. The worst. And that's like when I got in there, it didn't really matter. We had 3 guys who were high college recruits, so you could have put me anywhere, and I wasn't going to touch the ball.
So you know how baseball works. You know how guard is like the last position you play till you out of the league. Left field. That's same for that's left field in baseball. Once that one's gone, bro, you packing it up. You're now a manager.
I mean, to be fair, Jeff, we had the second pick in the draft was our number 1 starter. A guy who was an All Big Ten pitcher was the number 2 starter. Number 3 pitcher has had 10 years of service in the major leagues. So like as a pitcher, so like
gosh, did y'all ever lose?
We lost 1 game our last 2 years of high school.
Holy mackerel!
But like I think like honestly, there were so few balls put in play that you could have put me anywhere, and I wouldn't have really hurt the team. but left field was the worst.
All these parents paid to get him on different spots.
Yeah, no, it's like
where will he go there? We'll put him over here. He's good.
We're up 18-0. Stick him in left field for half an inning.
He gets to check the box he played.
Exactly.
That's a great story.
All right, appreciate you, Charlie. Thanks to all the great producers. Thank you, Jeff, for joining us. I'm hungry. We out.
Let's go.
This is the Domonique Foxworth Show.